Roll up, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first SummerSlam of the Monday Night Wars, and oh boy, this card's really dull as balls for the most part. But SummerSlam 1996 did have two stellar matches. The headliner pitting Shawn Michaels against Vader, and the first ever Boiler Room Brawl. The wild fracas was an omen of violent things to come, and one of the freshest matches in a few very bad years. A year into the Monday Night Wars, WWE was slowly on its way out of the dark, but was still definitely suffering from a product in crisis. I'm Plumpy from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 fascinating facts about SummerSlam 96. Number 10, local ads announced different matches. 1 month before the show, advertising in the Cleveland area where SummerSlam was taking place listed the card for the pay-per-view. For the most part, the advertised matches were on point, including Michaels Vader, Undertaker Mankind, and others. There were, however, two notable matchups that did not take place. One of them pitted the Ultimate Warrior against a British Bulldog. Warrior had recently quit WWE at the end of June and was replaced on future events by a returning Psycho Sid. That included SummerSlam with Sid taking the match against Bulldog. The other locally advertised match that was wrong was Intercontinental Champion Armour Johnson squaring off with Owen Hart. The listed card was released before the debut of Farouk Assad, who would immediately enter into a feud with Johnson, and that was before number 9, Ahmed Johnson missed the show with an injury. Johnson and Farouk, not Owen Hart, were set to square off at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental belt, stemming from Farouk's debut on a July episode of Raw in which he assaulted the champ. That debut, however, would destroy the SummerSlam match. During Farouk's run-in, he kicked Johnson harshly in the lower back, and Johnson would later say he felt like he'd been shot. Johnson recalls that Vader noticed him breathing funny later that night, and Ahmed was taken off the road following those tapings. The pain didn't subside, and the Wrestling Observer newsletter reported that Johnson wound up in intensive care, requiring emergency surgery on his kidney on August 6th, with Johnson being forced to vacate the belt. Well done, Farouk. That's quite some debut. Number 8, Skip injured his neck 9 days before. Another injury, another championship match affected. Chris Skip Candido of the Body Donners had suffered a cracked vertebrae at a live event at Madison Square Garden just over a week before SummerSlam. The injury apparently occurred during a match against the Smoking Guns when he landed awkwardly taking their Sidewinder finisher. The injury didn't play too much of a role in Candido's SummerSlam outing. He and partner Zip were the first team eliminated from a 4-way tag pitting the champions, the Guns, against the Donners, the Godwins, and the New Rockers. Candido wore a neck brace to the ring and performed literally zero physical activity before his partner was pinned 4 minutes in. Number 7, Marc Mero debuted The Wild Thing. Like great balls of fire, SummerSlam 1996 had a horn for the heels. Up until the main event, the only babyface that won their outing was Psycho Sid. You could argue that WWE skewed it so that polarizing babyface Shawn Michaels would get the biggest pop when he won the main event. What makes it even weirder that face Marc Mero got to debut a spectacular new finishing move when he wasn't going to win with it. Mero busted out a shooting star press dubbed The Wild Thing on Goldust late in their match. It awed the crowd for sure, but somehow Goldust still won. Mero had never performed the dazzling flip in a ring before that night and had only been practicing it at a local gym shortly before the card. Number 6, Jake Roberts hated his feud with Jerry Lawler. Jake Roberts' issues with intoxicants and alcohol have been long documented, and the snake became an unintended poster child for wrestlers that were still somehow alive. In 1996, Roberts was still struggling to stay clean despite his character being that of a man who used the word of God to help conquer his demons. For a feud with Lawler, the King taunted Roberts constantly for being a drunk, even brandishing booze bottles in front of him. Near-the-knuckle content was starting to slip into WWE programming. Roberts would later admit hating doing the angle, saying it was a place that WWE just didn't need to go. Roberts then fell on even harder times in the ensuing years before Diamond Dallas Page helped him get his life back on track in the Ultimate Redemption story. Number 5, the first half of the Boiler Room Brawl was taped. The rules of the Boiler Room Brawl were sort of simple-ish. The Undertaker and Mankind had to brawl from the titular Boiler Room all the way to the ring where Paul Bearer waited with the urn. Whoever physically claimed it would be declared the winner. The Boiler Room Brawl was something of a polarizing spectacle for the fans. It was brutal to the point that it was exceptionally rare in WWE, but before the days of Titantrons, WWE actually had to wheel televisions to ringside for fans to watch the earlier stages of the fight. Also, fun fact, the first half of the match took place the night before, filmed for insertion into the pay-per-view broadcast. Mick Foley remembers that The Undertaker did promotional appearance for most of that Saturday and was physically drained by the time he arrived at the venue for his knockdown, drag-out brawl with his mortal enemy. Number 4, Mick Foley nearly suffered a career-ending injury, aka just another Sunday. During the course of the brawl inside the Boiler Room, Foley nearly never made it to Hell in a Cell glory after landing badly from a bump. Mankind had climbed a basic wooden ladder leaned up against the wall of a room, ostensibly to drop the trademark cactus elbow. Undertaker countered by pulling back on the ladder, causing Mankind to fall backwards. Foley aimed for some cardboard that was in place as a pseudo crash mat, but the lower half of his body missed the mark. Foley badly damaged his sciatic nerve on the landing, standing, the residual pain along with severe disc damage would plague him for the next 7 months. Number 3, Vader admits fault in Michaels shooting mid-match. Shawn Michaels was tricky. In the ring, he was unparalleled in terms of timing, selling, and ring awareness, but also, he was a thunderous dick. The WWE champion, at his worst, was prone to throwing tantrums inside the ring, and one such paddy occurred at SummerSlam 96. During the main event with Vader, Michaels vaulted off the top rope with an attempted flying elbow smash. Per the plan, Vader was supposed to roll away, and Michaels would have landed on his feet instead of crashing, and then would have hit a simple elbow drop in something of a cute double reversal. Vader, however, forgot to roll away, but Michaels still landed on his feet as arranged. Michaels then angrily struck the down Vader and cursed him out with the entire world watching. Sure, Vader later admitted in an interview that he should have moved, but still, dick. Number 2, Vader Michaels was supposed to have a different ending. When the dust settled at SummerSlam 96, Shawn Michaels was left standing, having vanquished Vader with a moonsault after the match had to be restarted twice. The match was supposed to end, however, with a non-finish, leading to an eventual rematch at Survivor Series. There, Vader would defeat Michaels for the belt. This would have led to Michaels exacting revenge in his hometown of San Antonio, regaining the gold at the Royal Rumble. So what happened? Apparently, Michaels loathed working with the brutish, hard-hitting Vader, and Jim Cornette goes as far as to say that Michaels even threatened Vader's job due to his stiff work. Sid would then be swapped in for Vader, winning the title at Survivor Series through to the Rumble. And number 1, it had the lowest buys of any SummerSlam pre-network. The NWO had just become a thing and was in the process of total wrestling domination. SummerSlam was not exactly the perfect counter to their onslaught. Case in point, Steve Austin was on the pre-show. Good job. SummerSlam 96 ended up with just 157,000 buys. It was the only SummerSlam to do less than 200,000 prior to 2014, managing to underperform the hideously low buy rate from the previous year by a whopping 23%. Pay-per-view buys are generally in the toilet now thanks to the network. Were that not the case, SummerSlam would probably still hold the title of least bought SummerSlam of all time. Things needed to improve for WWE, and quick.